All right, Richie Mars, we're here to talk about Stephanie Vaquer, your new WWE Women's Champion, versus Tiffany Stratton, your long reigning WWE Women's Champion. So, Richie, trivia for you, real quick. I think this
Mhm.
is an easy one, but I'm curious how long it takes you. The 2024 Women's Crown Jewel match was?
Liv Morgan and Nia Jax.
Okay, so there is some remembrance of this prestigious Crown Jewel championship. So kudos to you. I had you clocked in at zero point 0.8 seconds, and I had the over under of 1.1 seconds. So you passed the test on that trivia. Richie, what's up, buddy?
Nothing much, man. I think you and I are kind of like on the same page with a lot of people with the Crown Jewel concept, where it's like it reminds me of those pay-per-views where it's like, Hell in a Cell, TLC, where it's like up, it's October, up, it's December. Looks like we're gonna have a ladder match, It's like
Yeah.
the match build isn't because of the build itself, but it's about what's on the line. And the two Crown Jewel matches are those things that, well, it's like, well, it's Crown Jewel, so the Crown Jewel titles are on the line.
Yeah, we're committed to this gimmick that we started last year in Saudi Arabia to give the prestige to the Hall of Fame in Saudi Arabia, give the prince whatever he asks. But this year they have the Royal Rumble, so we can't really go to them in October, November. So we have Perth, and we're going to make that Crown Jewel to kind of stick with this Saudi Arabia gimmick. So it kind of is what it is. But I think it's cool in a way, too, that it's something. It's like a little bit Raw versus SmackDown ish back in the day, and it's cool to kind of project leading into it in a way as well. That's like, oh, who's gonna win this match? So would it be Tiffany versus Io? Does that make sense? Or is
Mhm.
Tiffany versus Vaquer? Does that make more sense? Is Tiffany vulnerable to lose to Nia because Nia versus Vaquer is like a match that they like to do? So it's stuff like that that this kind of adds a little bit to, but also in a way too, it is kind of like to your point, a bit of a, I want to say speed bump in a few of the feuds, but I think that including the Seth and Cody feud in this one, the timing is acceptable in a way too. So I think that it doesn't really or hamper too much of what's going on in the flow of WWE TV this time around.
I mean, with the Cody and Seth feud, it's different because like they already have established history. This
Exactly. Yeah.
Stephanie and Tiffany, they have no history, so it's going to be harder to make it believable in a short amount of time that this is going to be the two top competitors of the respective brands to face each other, because you have Stephanie, who just recently not only returned to WWE TV after her layoff, but also she just won the world title like a couple weeks ago. And Tiffany, she's been on a roll, but a lot of people have been critical of her reign overall. Either it's
I
like,
do want to get into that a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's one of those recipes where it's like it would make more sense for one person to go over, which we're probably going to talk about right now. But yeah, you can't say they're not building Tiffany strong or Stephanie Vaquer strong. So it just makes sense you have the two strongest people that you've booked compete in this match, and then one has to win, one has to lose, and then the person who loses will reap the consequences for that. We'll go with that story, like similar how Gunther did last year, and the other one will just continue building that momentum.
All right. So we're going to kind of put ourselves in the present day, what they did on SmackDown. And then I do want to split off and talk about each title reign and what the title reign will kind of do for each woman. But first,
Mm.
the contract signing on SmackDown, not much to it.
Mm.
literally nothing. Zilch, nada. But we are recording this before Monday Night Raw. And I presume this is going to be released before Monday Night Raw or around so. So, do you feel that coming out of the contract signing, it makes sense to have Kiana James and Julia versus these two in a tag match? And would you think we'll get that at the Friday before, or do you think that we'll get this on Monday Night Raw either tomorrow or whenever Raw airs?
I think they announced it for next Friday, I
Okay,
believe.
that makes sense. They should.
Yeah.
That's good filler
Hmm.
right before Crown Jewel too. That's like a kind of
Yeah.
an attractive match. Can they coexist type of things? Build
Yeah.
up a little tension, so on and so forth. So they did announce it. Are you assuming?
I'm kind of assuming, I don't remember. I'm pretty sure they announced it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Do you think there's more depth to that match coming out of it, or do you think it's just kind of good filler and to give these girls something? And honestly, because Kiana can take the pin if they want to have the champions go over, and it's
Yeah.
just like projecting them against two big stars.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those if the match happens the way it does. It's going to be, clean win for the baby faces and then like the stare down with both of them raising their titles. It's again, it's a very paint by numbers kind of story where it's like you said, the contract signing really had no weight to it. It felt very like, I don't want to say AI generated, but it felt very AI generated. And that's not due to the performers, it's due to the material that they're working with.
Yeah,
Because you can't, it's really hard to make a babyface versus babyface matchup when one, you're trying to build both these stars at the same time, and there's no real conflict other than the Crown Jewel Championship, which nobody really has any attachment to. So
none.
they're already like starting like behind the gate, so to speak. And it's like, again, it's a really tough position for both of them to be in. And like both women are very talented and they're going to make the best out of this situation. And much like the Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky match, there wasn't really much build either. And it turned out to be the best match in the entire show at WrestlePalooza. So could we have that situation here? Potentially, because Tiffany Stratton's a fantastic athlete. Stephanie Vaquer is a fantastic athlete. But they are hindered because there are other matches on this card that
That are
have
much
more,
more juice. Yeah.
yeah, more juice, more interesting than this. And even though it's for the Crown Jewel Championship, I could see this being the people's like fourth or fifth, even like most anticipated matchup.
Yeah, just because there's no juice to it, right? And then you have like the
Mhm.
Legacy Cena match. You have the Rollins and Cody match could
Mhm.
really deliver. They when do they not, right? So
Mhm.
especially together. So yeah, interesting. All right, Richie, let's talk about these women as champions because that's why they're here.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think we should just kind of touch on Vaquer. We kind of had a little back and forth leading in on do they hold out till WrestleMania season? Do they crown her at WrestlePalooza? But coming out of it, she was the moment at WrestlePalooza, pretty much. Like she was the
Mhm.
biggest star. She was crowned. She had the best match. So presenting her on that ESPN stage as the next big women's star in this company kind of worked from a setup presentation. Do you think that she'll live up to that heights? Do you think that she'll even swim at the heights of Rhea Ripley, the biggest star in the company? And do you think that's like a dream match that they should be working towards? I
Mhm.
kind of threw out big lofty goals for Stephanie Vaquer, but I think the ceiling is extremely high.
Nah, she is definitely going to be one of the stars that they're going to focus on. She's still pretty young. She's only 32, I
Yeah.
believe. So it's like she's still like she still has like years and years to just like build that momentum, and with the same star power potentially as Rhea Ripley, especially because it's like the same vibe as Rhea, but very different, and the presentation, which I think is a lot of the allure of Stephanie McCarron. And plus, they put her over like right when she got to the main roster. You got Stephanie McMahon even like endorsing her at Evolution. You have the clean win over Io Sky. You have the performances which have all pretty much been relatively clean. So Stephanie is probably gonna not only ascend those heights, I think there's potential that she could surpass a lot of heights because again, she has that experience too. Has that experience like from wrestling outside WWE for a decent long period of time. So she already has a good understanding of her character with that. What's interesting is like when she was wrestling before WWE, she was more of a heel, but now she's been widely accepted more as a babyface, and she's been
Yeah,
thriving in that role too. And a lot of
absolutely.
people
A
are,
lot of natural charisma as a babyface.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like she has like a look that is interesting that people can latch onto. She the devil horns and everything like that. And I really do think that the matchup with Stephanie and Rhea could happen as soon as potentially this year's WrestleMania if they really wanted to do it.
See, funny you bring that up because I hinted of when would they face, right? But I
Mhm.
feel that Vaquer is going to have quite the title reign and it's going to lead into WrestleMania. And I would actually hold off. I think Belair would be a phenomenal opponent for her
Mhm.
at a WrestleMania on that big stage. Extremely fresh, athletic wise. They both would kind of gel like crazy, I think. I
Mhm.
think they would, on the grandest stage of them all. And plus, Belair is going to come back kind of fresh, looking for stuff to do. And I feel like that low key could be a WrestleMania match too, as well. And maybe they save like Rhea and Io as like an offshoot match. That's kind of
Mhm.
can Rhea finally get her pin type of thing that doesn't really need the title, and then we
Mhm.
can see what coming out of WrestleMania. But I don't want to project 6 months away. That's kind of nonsense. So
Mhm.
All right, we said we were going to talk about both title reigns here. Tiffany, your longest reigning women's champion in a long, long time, your longest reigning WWE champion company wise across the board. I believe she's been champion since December 2024 or early January 2025. So she's seen all of this calendar year as champion, numerous defenses, Charlotte, Nia Jax a handful of times, and a few other like Jade and a
Yeah,
few
Bailey.
Bailey, a handful of multi women matches. But there's a little low key stigma to her that she never really feels like a champion, that she's not maybe connecting at that level. I personally enjoy her as champion. I see some of the criticisms, I believe that they're nitpicky. But my first question to you is I want your overall feeling on Tiffany, but is she got a place? Should she be a heel? Because that's maybe some of the criticisms that I take in and I look at and I come to a conclusion as. Now, I think that her as a babyface works, but I just feel like she needs to make that tweak to kind of make
Mhm.
it absolutely excel. Where are you with that? Is she in the wrong role or does she kind of need to tweak who Tiffany Stratton is?
I don't think she's in the wrong role. It's just I don't think she's having enough of the right opponents, if that makes any sense.
It's a lot of the
For that
same.
baby
Yeah.
it not only a lot of the same, like Nia Jax works because you have the built-in history there. But
Yeah.
when you look at the SmackDown women's roster, you don't really have that natural like heel that you're building up to.
Yeah.
Where it's like
Well, then it's
you had
just Naya. It's just they keep going around and back to
yeah,
it.
that's why they keep doing it because they
Yeah.
don't really have another heel like to kind of like offset it. Yes, you have Julia, you have Kiana, but they're kind of off doing their own thing right now.
Yeah.
And you could potentially build that down the line, but they're still heating up Julia to a point where it's like the audience is gonna be invested in them. And I think where Tiffany, like her in ring work is fine, it's good. Like I think she's probably had the best 2025 out of all like the new, I guess, quote unquote prospects of WWE's main roster. And again, she's undefeated throughout the entire calendar year, not a pinfall loss. But it's like, look at the matches that she's had, like even Trish Stratus at Evolution as well, and they give her not enough moments. Beating Charlotte at WrestleMania, beating Trish Stratus, like they're landmarking like Tiffany Stratton, like this is our generation's like it
Charlotte. Yeah,
girl,
pretty much. Yeah.
and it's like we're gonna portray her like this. But the thing is, when you as a company telegraph that to the audience kind of like a portion of the audience will kind of slightly rebel, saying it's like, what do you mean we have to like this is our person that we're gonna have to cheer for? No, they're not giving us what we want. They're giving us what they perceive what we want, which is two entirely different things. And I think with Tiffany Stratton, like she even admitted in an interview that she still hasn't really found her footing as a babyface yet. And when you
Right.
turn like she cashed in as a heel technically, and then she turned babyface as champion, and it wasn't a big dramatic turn. It was because of the circumstances that the audience didn't want to cheer for Charlotte. You
Yeah.
know, so it's the
There wasn't that
circumstance.
tweak. There wasn't that moment that
Yeah,
put her over the edge. Yeah.
yeah, so she's not only learning how to be the top champion, she's learning how to be a babyface on the fly when majority of her career was being a heel. And we've seen that like struggle of that transition. Like we've seen that with Jade Cargill. She was majority a heel in AEW, but when she went to WWE, they positioned her as a babyface off the bat. And I think that really kind of took some time to kind of like gain that traction of Jade Cargill.
And then look at Naomi coming out of that situation. Can you imagine if the roles were reversed? Perhaps that maybe
Mhm,
Jade would have caught that Naomi momentum, even though Naomi had the grassroots,
mhm,
right? But yeah, not to go off too much there.
mhm.
But yeah,
But
I
yeah,
get what you're
I
saying.
think
Yeah.
yeah, I think Tiffany's fine as a babyface. It's just the situations they put her in don't really do her many favors. Like the stuff with Naya is good, but it's just like we've been to that well one too many times at this point, where it's like Tiffany has defeated Naya on multiple occasions, good matches too. Like you had the SmackDown match where Naya got busted open. You had the last woman standing match, I think at the SmackDown that was in Saudi. So you have like good
Yeah,
matches on
pretty
the
good matches.
resume,
Yeah.
but the thing is, it's like the perception and portrayal of Tiffany. There be weeks on the show where it's like she's not a focus on
eh,
the show, and that
Yeah.
that's a detriment.
So coming out of your points is two things. It's like Tiffany's had a good resume, but no one really wants to see it. And that's
Mhm,
kind of not her fault, but the circumstances around her.
mhm,
And my kind of culmination of what you were saying about Tiffany is she is a young football team, to give you an analogy, right?
Mhm.
She has a lot of talent, but she plays up to her competition. If she's playing like a bad team, you kind of get that like Jade quality type of thing. You need to be extremely scripted in your play calling, and you let the game flow go based around Jade Cargill. If you're facing like a Charlotte or a Naya, a veteran like that, you play into their cards and you can play up to that competition, so to speak. But you have the talent to hang, but you kind of just like squeak out the win. So she's kind of figuring out, she's a young team. They're figuring out who plays where, how to play different teams. So it's working, but she's just like a wild card team. When in a few years beyond that, she could be a Super Bowl contender, is kind of how I look at it. And this is a critical year for her to kind of figure that out.
Yeah, it's very much like there was a joke that I would make, like everybody's first like WWE championship run was not good. And because you see that with like and when I say not good, they're not booked the strongest.
Yeah.
Like Kurt Angle in 2000, he was booked as, the cowardly champion. The Miz in 2010, cowardly champion. And because of that, you're not going to get much growth from that. And if from the babyface side, you had Kofi, like Kofi's run, for example, beat a bunch of guys, probably one of the most dominant champions in WWE like history at that point of the modern era. But nobody remembers the run itself. They remember the beginning and they remember the end. They don't remember the context in the middle. And I think a lot of people are going to look back on Tiffany's run probably better than they view it now. But at the same time, they'll be like, really all that happened? Like, because if you imagine like Tiffany beat all these like notable names within the women's division. And if you compare it to Kofi beat like Randy, KO, Daniel Bryan again,
Ziggler,
Samoa
yeah.
Joe, Ziggler,
Seth
beat
Rollins on Raw, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like he had all these different matches and different opponents, but nobody just remembers him. He even beat like AJ and Sammy in on Triple Threat too. So it's like he was fairly dominant, but nobody remembers it.
Yeah. All right. Before we pick our winners, I have 3 rapid fire questions that I want from you. 1, take a look at those 2 women down there, Richie. Which one would you prefer belt design wise? What belt design is prettier to you?
Probably Stephanie's.
Oh,
Like the
really? I
world,
think
like,
Tiffany's is. I like
the world
Tiffany's.
title.
I like the world heavy. I like them both actually,
Yeah.
but I think Tiffany's is prettier. I threw your curveball there, Richie. You thought I was going somewhere else. I want you to predict the 2026 Crown Jewel women's match.
Man, that's really tough. I'll probably go. I'd go Bianca and Rhea.
Dude, you stole mine. I swear to God. I have Bianca and Rhea written down. I'm not sure what side because of the draft, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you said Bianca, I'm like, this motherfucker's gonna say Rhea, and he's gonna steal mine. All right. That's pretty funny. In the comments, actually, let's hear yours. That'd be fun to look back on in a few years. But yeah, motherfucker, Richie, we do too much shit together, bro. All right, and thirdly, which title reign do you think will last longer? I know Stephanie has the advantage of just winning it, but what do you kind of think?
I think Stephanie I think Stephanie takes it to Mania.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now Tiffany, how long would she take it, you think?
I could see her going until like maybe the year mark.
Okay. Yeah, I think they've gone this far. Might as well make 2025 her year.
Yeah.
Maybe she slips on a banana peel or something, and then she loses it to whoever, right? So
yeah. And then did we say who won or like who we think's gonna win or who should win?
that was the next question before we got there. I think Vaquer wins, Richie, but I wouldn't rule out Tiffany low-key needing it, but Vaquer being so fresh and so over, I feel that she kind of will.
Yeah, I agree. Vaquer is probably the right call, just because, like, again, she's just firmly getting established now, and they made making a big deal about Tiffany being undefeated through 2025. So that's just an accomplishment to give Stephanie, where it's like, oh, she's the one who defeated the undefeatable champion of 2025, so she's on the rise right now. And like Stephanie again just won the world title. It just seems like it reminds me of those Survivor Series, like Raw vs SmackDown deals, like we were talking before, where it's like they'd have all these championship matches weeks before, and then somebody would win the title, and then be thrusted in this champion versus champion match, and then lose. Like then you're like not really much of a strong start. I think the only match I liked of that was like Brock and AJ.
Yeah, no doubt. And they did it with Brock and Bryan the year after too. So,
Yeah.
all right, we both picked Vaquer just because of perception that she's going to have a longer reign and she's kind of a little harder right now. But if she's a little hotter, she could probably maybe have a path where she kind of has a bump on that acceleration up, and maybe it could be a characteristic that would probably help her too as well. So I think Tiffany could benefit from it as well too. So all right, Richie, it was fun, and we'll see you on the next one, buddy.
Yeah, sounds great.